Hello viewers, wherever you're watching us from around the world, welcome to your weekly State of Affairs program here on QTV. I'm your host, Aliu Sise. With my co-host, Sidi Sise. Sidi, good to have you here once again.
Thank you very much, Aliu.
Thank you very much, Sidi. Well, viewers, in 2017, or should I say in 2016, when President Barrow was first elected as the president of this country, among his key agenda was the issue of security sector reform. And when we talk about security sector reform, actually the Minister of Defense has a huge role to play. And this week, we are joined on the State of Affairs program by the Minister of Defense, Sek Omar Faye. Mr. Faye, good to have you on the State of Affairs program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. With the permission now that everybody is, thank you for having me. Thank you, CD. Thank you, Aliu.
Thank you very much. Well, I mean, viewers, we've all been following developments after the change of government in 2016. I mean, there was an impasse, and then where we had the ECOWAS foreign forces were deployed to the Gambia to help in removing the former president, Yaya Jammeh, who now lives in exile in Equatorial Guinea. And 5 years after, the change of government, the foreign forces are still in the country. And just recently, we've seen what appears to be a clash between some members of the foreign forces deployed in Fonyi against the separatists in the Casamas region of Senegal. And then, I mean, we've seen some lives were lost and some personnel of the Senegalese forces in Fonyi captured by the separatist group. But I'll just try to engage the minister first to tell us how do you reflect on this incident that happened in Fonyi?
If you would, first of all, allow me to thank the Almighty Allah for myself and for all of us and as a country, and for all our viewers, for being where we are today. If you look at, in retrospect, what happened in 2016, when I was in Washington as ambassador, and when people were crossing the border, running to take refuge. And 5 years down the line, we're sitting out here at QTV. I think we should say thank you. And I think your question talks about security sector reform or about skirmishes in the Casamas area. And maybe if you would want to tell me exactly what your question is.
Yes, just how do you assess, how do you, reflect on this incident? I know gradually into the discussion we'll get into what is happening as far as the security sector reform is concerned, the presence of these foreign forces in the country and all whatnot as far as security is concerned, but just your own understanding. How do you reflect on this incident?
Okay, again, thank you for having me. What I can say is there are things that we call unforeseen. Nobody would have thought that today we'll be talking about skirmishes. We've just had a successful inauguration. That's what some diplomats told me, that nobody in their right mind would have been thinking that there will be problems in the Fonyis or anywhere in the Gambia, because we have seen a successful election, successful inauguration, and now we were going to go into our development agenda. And like I teased CD before we start, nobody thought a dog will bite CDC in the UK or somewhere. No security pamphlet will tell you.
And by the way, that's a breaking news for us. We never know about that.
Okay, CD, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but that shows that I have followed you.
Yes.
For years. I have listened to you. I've followed you for years, like several others when we were in DC, having it very tough with the former Jammeh regime and try to tell Gambians what we were trying to achieve. But coming back to your question, Aliu is unfortunate. And I think it's fair for me, again, to take the opportunity to extend our condolences to the fallen lives. Also to sympathize with those that are wounded. And most, very important, our families in the Fonyis for the distress and the duress and all these movements, which is going back to normal. I've just spoken to commanders in that area. And they want to reassure us that the guy just teased me and said it's only the Serers and the Fullers who are not coming, but our people are going back. And but yes, it's unfortunate, it was unexpected, but it happened. And now when it happened, the President of the Republic immediately on that Monday constituted a task force, a presidential task force, and gave directives to the Ministry of Defense, to the Chief of Defense Staff, for our people to be on standby to deploy in that frontage so that we can reassure the Gambian population. I want also to correct something. We are not deploying against anybody. We are deploying to do what the Constitution has asked us to do, to protect lives and property in the Gambia. So it's unfortunate it happened, and we are looking for avenues of redress. And we've gone far. The report may be ready in another 24, 48 hours, I was told, and we will know exactly what happened. And
we might not want to preempt the outcome of the fact finding, but do you exactly know what caused this clash?
Timber. At some stage, we have to put things on the table. This culture of maslaha, at some stage, we have to go past, and that has hurt us big time. What caused this? They were pursuing a timber truck, and we all know the menace and the devastation timber has done in the Senegambia region. And I think no country is taking it lightly for your forest to be almost deforested.
Yeah, but if you look at it, you talk about pursuing timber. I mean, is this part of the agreement that you have with the ECOMIG forces? Is this their responsibility to be pursuing timber coming from the Casamas region?
Actually, if I may want to tell you exactly what are the mandate of the ECOMIG. Number one is to protect the President of the Republic of the Gambia and the seat of government. Is to protect the institutions of the Gambia to ensure that we work amicably. Is to work closely with our armed forces to build up capacity, training, and also to patrol in sensitive areas in this country. These are the core mandates of ECOMIG. Patrolling is part of the mandate of ECOMIG.
For many, I mean, back in 2017, there was all justifiable reasons to have these forces in the Fonyi region, knowing what was the situation at the time. But things have changed now, and don't you think it's high time we think of withdrawing these forces in Fonyi and have our fine men and women in Fonyi doing exactly what these foreign forces are doing in Fonyi, just to bring back calm in that part of the country?
Why not? Remember, when it started, it was not a unilateral decision. This was a regional bloc decision where the Gambia was almost getting into a constitutional crisis where the Gambia was in harm's way. Almost 7,000 troops were ready to come into the Gambia. And it was ECOWAS that took a decision that to save Gambia and to save ECOWAS, we need this. And then it was unanimous. And I think overwhelming Gambians appreciated it. Now, as we speak, His Excellency the President is sitting with his colleagues in Accra to discuss issues about ECOWAS. And I have no doubt that there could be bilateral discussions talking about. There was already also a decision to change the mandate of ECOWAS. So you are right. And if they change the mandate, it start to scale down, to start cutting down. And that means that eventually this force will go away. And sooner or later, the ECOMIG will have to leave. I don't think they'll be here forever. And our Gambian fine men and women of the armed forces, who have also traveled around the world, did peacekeeping. Yeah. Their record is very high, whether it's in the United Nations, whether it's AU or ECOWAS. The Gambians have been praised. The Gambia Armed Forces has got a very high regard in terms of peacekeeping. I have no doubt that eventually we will get
that's why I keep calling them the fine men and women in uniform.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah. I just, like you have rightly said, let's put it on the table. And I want to definitely put it on the table. And I'll underline the word definite. Yeah. You know, the Honorable Minister talked about the deforestation in the sub-region. And we are all aware of that. We have seen a documentary that came on BBC. Talking about when it comes to deforestation, taking logs from southern part of Casamas. Barely 4 weeks, I personally did an undercover work from Fonyi to Baflodo, just before Mandina Rain. And I was following a truck that came from Casamas on tape, on video, that was played on this very television on Kachadula. And on that tape, you can see how many uniforms, especially the police officers. I'm going to say it here. I want everybody to listen to it. They have seen it, and they took no action. When we had those footages, we have seen police checkpoints who actually they are like robots. All they do, no facial contact, no body contact. They just walked from their checkpoint to the driver to be handed $1,000 or $1,500. Wow. We got proofs of this, and we have shown it here. The Senegalese forces stationed at Buyam never in their right mind knew where these trucks were coming from. But after our program, They exactly knew where these trucks were coming from. And the Gambian security forces, the Gambian intelligence, who sit and drink their cafe, never follow television program. If they do follow it, they just laugh over it. But the Senegalese intelligence, who are with us, follow every single program in the Gambia. And I can proudly say, from Kachadula, they exactly knew where these trucks were coming from. And they went there to get them. What do you have to say to that?
CD, thank you so much. And I'm glad that you have said it. Now we're putting it on the table. I wish, and maybe when we leave here, you'll share with me to really look at that link to know exactly what you're talking about. I will tell you something. There is connivance. There is connivance. We're not doing what we're supposed to do. That is just the truth. It is time now to call it. What is it? We need to buckle up. This is not my words. This is the words of the President of the Republic. We need to buckle up. Security need to buckle up. And we need to do what we're supposed to be doing. And I agree with you. We should find a way to fix this problem. And this is what resulted into this unfortunate incident. Let us accept our deficiencies. If we have deficiencies in areas, we need to accept and find out what to do to fix it. And President has already given directives. There are task force instituted by the Gambia, the Inspector General of Police. I was there when he said it. He's working with the Minister of Interior, and they're going to reinforce those task force and mobile patrol. They have instituted a new team that is going around doing strong, serious mobile work. Yes, I think security, we need to look at the lapses and we need to fix them.
I don't think actually it's lapses. I think Ali Wood earlier said with the security sector reform. I mean, we really want to know what so far have you achieved. Because if our men in uniform, not all of them, some are doing fine jobs. The women are doing fine jobs. You know, actually, when you go out, you see some people are actually developing themselves. But others thought this is just go out there to just fill their pocket. And I cannot believe you have an institution like the SIS. I will decide to call it SIS. It's the NIS still, because the proper amendment has not been done. It's just cosmetic change of name. They cannot tell me all they do is to sit in the office, is not getting some of this vital information. These are a threat to national security. Today, everybody is clapping their hands and crying foul. But let's go to where the problem happens. And that is, we're accepting, since we have ruined our forest, we want to ruin the forest of Senegal. And they are saying no to it. If we allow us to be ruined, others are saying no to theirs. So I think it is high time, as the Minister of Defense, to engage other security institutions and definitely deal with this matter. Because we have seen the threat of Salifou Sadio. What do you have to say to that? Because if Salifou Sadio is making such threat and, you know, we continue to accommodate people going to Casamance, cutting their trees and come here, we land ourselves in a big crisis.
What I would say is that, as I said, when we are talking about defense and security, it's frank talk. And that's why I'm here. We talked about security sector reform. It's a strategic concept. I think this is an opportunity for our viewers, fine viewers of QTV and the average Gambian, to really know what security sector reform is. It's a strategic concept. A lot of Gambian things, when you talk about security sector reform, is the armed forces.
So many people don't understand actually.
No, but that's the truth. And I will not blame a lot of them, because it's a very difficult subject. The United Nations, the AU, they've been on reforms for decades. I've just got a book in my truck that talk about the times of Kofi Annan, security sector reform. Some countries did it and they wanted to fast track. They had to go start from, I don't need to mention those countries, there's no need for that. But we have learned from those mistakes. But it's a strategic concept. I will tell you the Gambia, I can only speak for the Gambia. It all started in 2017 when there was an assessment and gaps were discovered. 2017. It moved from 2017, after the assessment report, we realized that as a country, CD, you, me, and all of us here, we didn't have a national security policy. Could you believe that? You were in the UK, you traveled. I've never thought that we did not have one. It's not time now to be crying over spilled milk. Mm-hmm. Then we came out, the assessment report identified those gaps and the lapses, and we said, you know, Gambia, you need a security policy, a national security policy. And the President of the Republic with his team, go ahead. Our partners helped, and we came with a first ever national security policy. Then what? You need a strategy to implement those policies. Whenever you have policies, you have to have strategies informed. Then we have a first ever Gambia national security strategy. And now, after having the security sector reform assessment strategy, my ministry, which is a stakeholder in the whole thing. Remember, security sector reform includes the judiciary, the civil service, ministries and their offices, the parliamentary. It's a whole cross-cutting issue. It's not only uniform, people. So I want us all as Gambians to understand that security sector reform is to reposition yourself, is to adjust yourself on strategic realities, because things have changed, Sidi. What happened 10 years ago and what is going on right now, there is a shift on transatlantic terrorism, drugs, bandism, armed robbery, backway syndrome, all these things. So the security sector reform, as far as my part is concerned, is we have now put up a defense policy. And where are we heading now? Within maybe 30, 45 days to 60 days, to have a military strategy. And that will end that part of the road. So I am telling you that a lot has been achieved, a lot of intangibles, of course. We have capacity building. People are all over the world doing their training, and we have repositioned some of our elements around the Gambia. So the security sector reform is doing very well. And all the other sectors are doing their own bit. And I'm sure when you have them here, maybe they can also explain their own part. But for my own part, as a Minister of Defense, with the Permanent Secretary and my team, with the leader, we have now put up a defense policy. We had a retreat not long ago. Everything is on document, and now we are working. And may I take the opportunity to also thank the British High Commissioner for sponsoring the coming of that policy under Honorable Sheriff Gomez, with a lot of former retired army officers and people from different parts of the government, lawyers, young Gambians from different ministries formed that part, and they stayed in the officers' mess for months to put up that defense policy, which we can boast of now of having. We are getting now to, from the defense policy, you need a military strategy, because the strategy will inform the policy to implement it. And now our reform would have been up and running. This is the Ministry of Defense. The Minister of Interior will be doing theirs. SIS or NIA/SIS will be doing. The Judiciary will be doing theirs. The Legislature will be doing theirs. And the Civil Service, Secretary General Nuature and his people. So it's a cross-cutting issue, and it's like a collective responsibility. Maybe I'll stop there. And
yeah, I mean, let me just take you back a little bit. I mean, you talk about the issue of the, we're still talking about the issue of the phone incident. I mean, you said you talk about locks. In your own opinion, perhaps I understand your ministry is not responsible for issuing these licenses to people who operate in this quite sensitive area. But don't you think it's high time we review how these licenses are issued to people? Because some of them, they will tell you, I'm licensed to bring locks here.
No,
so,
you're right. And I wish I can be allowed to say one sentence in Wolof. Wolof wax na ne loo wax ne suma doon buur def ko fekk buur mu ngi ko xalaat. Sidi, that's been taken care of. President has given directives a couple of days ago. They're reviewing everything through the Ministry of Forestry and Environment, and yes, it's being looked into as we speak.
And there's so much fear since this incident occurred in the Fonyi region, with the comments of Salif Sayo that if such a repeat itself again, I mean, he says comments that are quite threatening for so many Gambians. I mean, in your own opinion, you know, you serve in the security, you former diplomat. Does this in any way pose any threat to the security of this country? You're somebody who is very much concerned about the peace and stability of this country. You always advocate for the need for people to
This is what I know. The bravest and the toughest are the people who preach peace, not the ones who go and beat their chest and want to fight. This is a survey that was made. The toughest and the good folks, they always advocate for peace. I would not want to comment on threats. One I can tell you is that the Gambia and Senegal are family and neighbors. And we want to ensure that the Gambia is known for peace, the respect for rule of law, and democracy. This is why this small country around the world is being looked at everywhere. So, I mean, with all due respect, to crave your indulgences, I would not want to sit here as a Minister of Defense for the Gambia to talk about threats. But I want to tell them that we want to live in peace because we're the same. You see, some of the families in across the border, are the same families in
Hundreds were displaced after the incident.
And as you said, I spoke to the commander on the ground. He said a lot of them have returned. I spoke to Honorable Amul Nyasi before coming here. He was at the National Assembly on some other issues until Bojang teased me and said it's only the Fullers and the Sereres who are not going back. Yeah. So he said they took the press out there and they went around, talked to the local heads and to reassure people. He said a lot of people are already gone back. When you talk about, from Kappa to Balen to Karol or to Kampangal or to Bujinga, they're restoring, confidence.
You seem to know phone you well, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to follow your footsteps.
Quickly, Honorable. I'm quite baffled. I see your government as a very reactive government, not proactive at all. And why I say this, we brought Amul Nyasi here on last Sunday on Kachadula, and we dealt with this issue of this Fonyi Kasamas saga. And we opened the phone lines. Those who supposed to call, the likes of Mr. Dahaba, Senator Dahaba of NDMA, I called them out to call. They didn't call. As soon as the program curtain went down, my phones were going all over the place, ringing me. I'm saying this because I told them it's best to call on this program, on the program that we are sitting on, and tell us what you're doing. They didn't stop call till 1 in the morning. I've got nothing to tell you. If you want to do something, go out and do it. And if you speak to Mr. Nyasi, Amulu Nyasi, he has sent me lots of reports, even when the army was going there. Why do you guys have to wait? After a week, this incident happened. Until when we came here and made the noise, that everyone is running left and right to go and fix the problem. It's absolutely unacceptable. As a government, you cannot be reactive. Proactive is missing in your government.
And I'm glad that you're saying this. That shows that this is democracy. People can speak their mind and their opinion. And thank God that we are in this forum right now. Maybe there were years ago, me and you would not be talking about this. But that means that we have achieved something. When citizens say something about the government, you have to look at the veracity of that. Because the president is always mindful to listen to what those Gambians want. Because he's the one who gave us this job. I've heard what you said. I am not reactive. I've come all the way to find you here. And I'm part of the government. Are you calling me reactive or proactive? No, I'm asking you that.
No, you are not proactive. You know why? Because it was after Monday, then your guys started, assembling and going there.
And quickly, remember Monday it happened.
Yes. At
about 12:30, we received that information. As soon as the commander-in-chief that day constitutes a presidential task force. Yeah. Within a day.
To find out what actually happened. But we need men and women out there to assess and help what they can do. And that was also missing. Some of these people left their houses with nothing.
Yes.
And it took them 7 days. People were going out in the street, taking money out of their pocket to get bread and loaf of bread for them. We are talking about an institution. And I'm going to make sure that we get Senator Dahaba here. Okay. That's disaster management.
Okay.
But, that's not
we will try to get Senator Dahaba here, but for now, let's focus on the minister and then all what is around the security sector of this country.
Okay.
I mean, you talk about the security sector reform. Others will say downsizing. Others are saying right sizing. I mean, as we speak, what is your focus or priorities as far as the security of this country is concerned?
And I'm going to repeat that. Security sector reform is a strategy, it's a concept, but it is determined on factors. What are your threats? That will determine what size you need. But there are things that you cannot cater for because like a dog biting somebody would have never been something you would be planning because it may never happen. Skirmishes in that area.
I like this.
No, it's a very good example. Yeah. I was there listening to see.
You know what happened?
Sidi,
Sidi, trust me, I've been there for a couple of years, listening and following you. That's how I know what happened. And some of the chebujen you ate in Dakar. Yeah. But maybe that's another program by itself that we can go through.
We have a program go to.
Exactly. Yes. Let's now look at this.
But now what we're looking at, the strategic environment. That's what it's called. the defense space. You see, defense is not a joke. It's not going to political party and people drumming, and no, it is serious business. And it's Gambia. When it gets to defense and security, it's Gambia. So what we are looking at, you ask me, we're looking at the changing environments, Aliu, the CD2, strategic environment. The Sahel is broken, Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea. And we are in here, the West Coast, the Smiling Coast, and a lot of that, I'm not saying you're coming here.
By getting closer.
So what do we have to do? This is why our fine men, and may I take the opportunity to thank them and ask all Gambians, and I think to thank our armed forces. Really with very limited, Gambia being very poor, limited resources, but they've always been very Republican.
Yeah.
They've always exercised restraint. Yeah. What have they done during the impasse? The entire forces held up to follow the Constitution. So now we are looking at it. We're having talks at our level, trust me, and we're looking at everything. And when this report comes in, that would have been a pedestal to help us now map out, Sidi, what are the axes of advance, like they will call in the armed forces. What is the way forward? I think maybe I can stop there. That yes, we're looking at, as Gambian, we're also concerned, we want our country to be in peace. Because this is what Gambia is known for. That's why Sir Dawda was taken here to go to Iran, Iraq. Small Gambia, and different parts of the world with the landing Kitty Jabangs, with the blessed giants. Because of Gambia is respected because of our character and peaceful nature. And they trust, so we are also regaining that lost glory. Our armed forces are looking into the Ministry of Defense and other sister services, Ministry of Interior, a holistic overview of our space. And what are we going to do about it?
Thank you very much, Honorable. I never had an opportunity to sit with you as a Minister of Defense. But let me say this. The President DG, Director General of SIS, Mr. Sow, a good brother, I've sat with him and we spoke length, couple of hours on real issues of security and that. And that also the Minister of Interior. I guess you know my security background, and also I'm running a security firm in the Gambia. I come across a lot.
So you kind of doing advertisement of
this program.
No, I do, because you have a lot of dogs. Security dogs. So, no, go ahead.
This program,
yes.
Quite a sensitive program.
Yes.
We are discussing with the Minister of Defense.
Yes.
I mean, I'm going to cajole Gambians. It's only the Gambian government that will not follow every single program that I believe to take note of anything that is coming out there. If you guys not doing it, you better start doing it now. So I will be very limited how I squeeze you, because it's very important. Okay. But I just want to know, in terms of our men and women, I come across quite a few of them who pull themselves out of the army. The reason known best to them, and they have not had voluntary discharge. They are not voluntarily discharged. They have sat home. Your department, your institution, how are you keeping track of people? I know you've done the head count to know how many young men and women are in the force, but are you satisfied with that head count?
You have to trust your generals on the ground, Sidi, and I thank you for understanding that not everybody can come and wash, God forbid, wash your dirty linen in the open. Every country has their challenges. And then you're smart to have journalists who will know when to squeeze you and how far they'll squeeze you. When you squeeze me, I will say what I think I can say for the interest of Gambians. Yes. But for what is not ready yet, maybe I will not share that with you. But coming back to your question, there is what they call, CD, in the armed forces, TO and Is, Table of Organization and Equipment. That answers your question. It will tell you where everybody is, when and where and what they've got. But the rate of attrition, people have discharged voluntarily, some people for medical reasons, some people for disciplinary reasons. Some people have got greener pastures, like to go somewhere else, and sometimes they write to say that, you know what, I've served this amount of time, I want to honorably bow out. But now with the terms and conditions of service almost getting ready, and the GAFA, Gambia Armed Forces Act, which was not looked into since 1985, and the TACOS, they call it, the Terms and Conditions of Service, I think when it's ready, maybe a lot of people may want to come back to the armed forces.
Yeah, just quickly.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Well, viewers, you're still watching QTV, and this is your weekly State of Affairs program here on QTV. We're broadcasting from our studios on Kairaba Avenue, just behind the QSN building. I am Aliu Sise, with my co-host Sidi Sise, and our guest this week is the Honorable Minister of Defense, Omar Faye. We'll go for a short break, and we'll be back soon.
Looking for the fastest and easiest way to receive money transfers from abroad? Well, QMoney and RIA just made it happen. Now you can receive international money transfer from RIA directly into your QMoney account with no additional cost. Once you receive an SMS alert about your transfer, walk into any QMoney agent across the country to receive your payment for free, or use the money immediately to buy credit, QPower, and other QMoney services. It's fast, safe, and convenient. For more info, call customer care on 133. QMoney, Sinu Calpe. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, viewers. Welcome back from that short break. You're still watching State of Affairs, your flagship political program here on QTV. I am your host, Aliu Sise, with my co-host, Sidi Sise, and our guest this week is the Gambia's Minister of Defense, Sek Omar Faye. We're discussing the issue of the security situation in the country. I mean, looking at diverse issues that are related to security. And then, Honorable Minister, just before we go on the break, you still talking about the importance of peace and stability in this country. Let's now move forward. At some point during one of the ECOWAS summit, I mean, it was announced that the ECOMIG mission in the country will be transformed into a police mission. Just to make us understand, what do they mean by transforming this mission into a police mission?
Okay, thank you very much. And previously, before I come to your question, is that, remember when all this happened, there was a press release by the government spokesman on the directives, Ibrahim G. Sankare, very accomplished journalist, but also on the directives of His Excellency President. And I think a lot of these answers will be out there. And I kudos to him and everybody who's out there in the front line. What I understand from your question and trying to answer it is that when they review 2017 to date, they figured that the force have done relatively well. If you look at the record, it's been pretty much, yes, there are hicks here and there, but overall, they figured it's a very successful mission so far, knock on wood. And they said, now that the Gambia is consolidating, they've gone to a peaceful elections. Of course, there are parliamentary coming in April, but why can't we now changing the mandate of ECOMIG? How do we do that? Do we just pack up and go? I said, no, why can't you transform this into a police force? So in that case, ECOMIG will start scaling down to go onto their withdrawal phase so that they can live honorably, and we say thank you. And you have police to work with our police forces to support them to do their job and be in the background. But those details are not worked out yet. Yeah. So
it's a process.
I cannot preempt. It's an idea. It depends on the president of the Gambia with his colleagues and Gambians. When the president consult to see, yes, this is what we need, or no, thanks, we don't need this. But we've not got to that bridge yet to cross. President is talking to his colleagues today, His Excellency, and I'm sure they will start working on that. And be rest assured, whatever is agreed, it will be put on the table for Gambians to understand why are we doing this to help secure, to keep the Gambia to be in peace. People are coming, like President Barrow will always say, people come to your farm to help you. In fact, they're doing it gratis. Why can't you allow them to help you finish the work? But it depends on the way people know. Because sometimes maybe they don't know. If they knew enough that the Gambia is not spending a dime with all these economic people you are saying, because we cannot sustain it. Our treasury has got very limited dollars, and we have other priorities. But the other West African countries are helping the Gambia. But yes, this mandate gradually will be transforming to cut down, and then the police will come, but it depends on whether, when we come around the table, what is the best interest of the Gambia, if that answers your question.
Honorable, you talk about police duties. We may have to look at the powers then. You say, the idea is an idea, the concept is not there, right? But you've already given them a name. So earlier on you talk about the security sector plan, the strategy for a layman to understand it. Can you just make this for a layman to understand when you are telling us the ECOMIG forces are going to shift to a police duty? What sort of powers are they going to have?
Okay, see, the final phase of the ECOMIG is withdrawal. As you know, you're a security man.
Yes.
That process, when they withdraw, is a complete different force. It's not ECOMIG you're going to keep. You're not going to have ECOMIG anymore. You're going to have police force, and some countries have already offered.
Okay.
Some countries have already offered to participate because the peaceful nature of the Gambia, they feel that it's a good country to serve, but this military component will eventually
a form of a East Timor strategy policing. Is that right?
Well, CD, you have the answer, and you are still asking.
No, it hasn't come from you.
Yeah, but we've not got to the Minister of Interior with his experts now are looking at the laws of the Gambia, some details. So again, law wax ne suma don bour def ko fekk bour mu ko halat mu ko waxtan. This also is on the table. They're talking about it. What is best for Gambia? How can it work? Because we have a constitution. We have our police laws. They may be different with other countries. How can we fit it in? We will get to that bridge to cross when we get there. But for now, we're not there yet.
You gave the baby a name. You don't know whether it's a man or a male, a boy or a girl. That's what you did.
But no, I didn't. Maybe the police,
your government,
the ECOWAS and the government. But okay. I'm not going to shy away from the responsibility. It's a concept. CD, it's a vision. You have lenses. You're looking somewhere, and you have plans in your brains that CD. I'm trying to employ more Gambians. No, I'm not trying to give him advertisement, but you have a plan.
We're already doing that. Honorable, so, quickly,
yes.
We have seen, if you looked at the sub-region and you got developed countries, you've been all over the world. The army is very instrumental in terms of infrastructural development. You have top engineers in the world in the army. Civil engineers, auto mechanic engineers, you name them. I mean, as far as the Gambia is concerned, are we in that phase of building the capacity of our young men and women to help us to build this country? Gambia needs building. If you travel from Brikama to Brikama Bar, you can hardly see a road sign telling you where you're going, or whether there's a pitfall next there. So our men in uniform and women in uniform, there are a lot of things that they can do in partnership with various institutions. Are you thinking of transforming this army? You talk about security. You talk about strategy. We need complete transformation in terms of attitude, in terms of capacity here.
I agree, and you're right. And yes, it's also part of the plans. A few hours ago, I had a meeting with the Deputy Chief of Defense Staff, and this question was one of. And he told me that, Honorable, you know that we've got over 40 scholarships from Honorable Badara Youth Higher Education, is to build capacity of our engineers. This armed forces is different from what people used to know. This is a well-educated, professional, and an armed force that respects the rule of law, that is subservient to civil authority. But this is the plan. Our armed forces have built Nemban Skill Center. They've participated in building Mayok, Faraba Banta, University of the Gambia. Now they're trying to refurbish the old Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where I'll be housing my Minister of Defense. They're building a story building in the Farafenya camp. So our men, women in the engineering squadron has also got their plans. And we've already, as I said, acquired 40 scholarships to build up that skill. But in the interim, what they told me they were lacking, which we'll be working on, is the equipment. And also that partnership you've said. And I'm sure together as a country, trust me, if these ideas honestly come on the table and we work together, yes, our sons and daughters in the armed forces, they're heading in the right direction. It's already in the pipeline.
Congratulations.
And you're welcome to stop by Marina Parade. They're doing some refurbishment. And I think you'll be impressed when you see
Honorable, don't invite him. From here, he might just drive to Banjul. I know he doesn't waste time. But anyway, congratulations for all what is happening as far as the capacity building is concerned. But do we have the right size needed for as far as our army is concerned in this country?
No, we need more people.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really?
We're limited. That is that breaking news for you?
How do you go about getting the right size?
Is that the threat of Gambia, our threat, our strategic environment will determine how many people you need. And these policies and strategies will highlight all those. Remember, we had no legal frameworks. There was nothing in place. As we said, we're going to put it on the table. That's the truth. We never had these frameworks. No doubt we've been having problems. But with these frameworks, you will have a steady and safe path to trend on. You have a ferry to take you along. These are these policies and strategies. You know that we are already recruiting close to about 600, the cabinet and the president of the republic, because of we have realized that with all the expectations and all what's going on in our environment, you need more men. Because we have a lot of people who've gone through natural attrition, discharge, sick. Some people gone to different professions. And some people, they finish their career and it's their prerogative not to sign again. And they want to honorably discharge, and they write and we approve. We are on that line. We will get there now to eventually the army, the armed forces will know exactly this is what we need. With all the changing threats around. You know this, you have never calculated. All these skirmishes here, terrorism, what's happening next door, will determine what the generals think they need. And at the level of the executive, we have to provide for the funds, for the logistics. It's a very expensive business.
As we speak, do we have the Senegalese ECOMIG in Buyam, or they've been withdrawn as we speak right now?
Withdrawal of those troops, I may not be aware because it's out of my TOR and mandate. That belongs to ECOMIG command and generals. I'm a civilian like you are, CD, you know that. I will not be involved in the movement, but it's the prerogative of the ECOMIG commanders. The report may come out with some recommendations.
I'm asking if they are withdrawn or they are still there.
As I said, I would not know the operational details.
I don't want to speak on behalf of the ECOMIG command, but I guess that was so quick to have them withdrawn just overnight, just like that.
Well, CD, he's a civilian, you are a security guy. You know what he said?
I don't think, withdrawing such...
No, he said it will be too fast to withdraw to go
It's a process, actually. It's a process.
It's not about withdrawal, it's about relocation.
That is the prerogative of QTV. Mohammed Jah will determine what they want to do in QTV. So, yes, on a serious note, is the ECOMIG High Command with his team who are going to sit and say, you know what? They write operational orders and said, from this day, this person is moving to Turntable, this person is moving to Airport Junction, and this person will be in that. So I don't want to go through those details.
They can even sit and say, you know what? We are now moving the Ghanaian guys to Buyam and bring in the Senegalese to this end. So it's a process, Cindy. I mean, I'm not a security person,
like,
but suddenly I know...
I is a spokesperson for ECOMIG.
Well, moving forward, I mean, you talk about, we don't have the size needed as far as our army is concerned. But you also said, we have instances where you have seen people honorably resigning from the army. Why?
Some of them is their prerogative as Gambians. After serving 10 years, some serve 12 years, they want to do something else. Guess what? A lot of people are writing to come back. So it depends on the Gambian, it's the individual, it's democracy. Now everybody is open to freely say, this is what I want to do. What you just say, make sure they stay within the confines of the law and respect the rule of law. But that is going on. Some are leaving, but some knowing that there are things in the pipeline, and I think I don't want to get the card out of the bag, maybe in a few months' time, we will see lots of good things happening.
Salary increment?
Salary
increment, allowance increment,
positive that you like to
allowance. Allow honorable to come in. Salary increment, risk allowance.
No. Already they have achieved a lot in terms of allowance. Trust me, compared to what used to happen, there were some, of course, mistakes that happened through PMO, and they put up a press release to rectify it. But there are lots of allowances that they have incurred. They are preparing to put together a peacekeeping battalion. They're already in training. We have 250 folks as we speak in Turkey, already 250 completed. The equipment is being put together. There are things that are positive happening for our Gambia Armed Forces, and I want to tell them thank you on behalf of Gambians for all their service, for them, their professionalism, and encourage them that nobody will be the Gambia Armed Forces. Only Gambians will be the
I just want to say this positive thing that I guess you will love that. A major who left, even this afternoon, was engaging me, thinking coming back to the armed forces. Well,
CD, you see, I will not come here and say something that's not... You're right.
Yes. It's one thing to have a major who wants to come back, but the reality and the fact on the ground is most of these fine men and women in uniform, they really need motivation. Their allowances, risk allowance, I mean, some of them you serve the army for 12 years, 10 years, you live, you don't even have your own compound. For God's sake. I mean, if there's one thing that the current government will really achieve and will leave a big legacy, Mr. Honorable, is having these fine men and women really motivated. I mean, it's really sad. I mean, you have somebody who is serving this country, putting your life on the line, and at the end of the month, the maximum you go home with, city, is $5,000. And I might be wrong, but I can tell you, if you estimate, you realize about 40% of these fine men and women in uniform who sacrifice their lives, they don't go home at the end of the month with anything more than $5,000. And then you have to pay rent, you have to take your children to school. I mean, transport allowance is there, your risk allowance. In fact, I understand some of them, even the risk allowance is less than $1,000. For God's sake. This is something that, Honorable Minister, I mean, if you are able to achieve this for these fine men and women, I see no reason of having ECOMIG in this country.
Ali, just to add on to what you just said, you see,
Honorable Minister.
When you talk about...
maybe before CD
No, you're on the same line, just to add on to that.
Okay.
You're talking about the army, including the police as well.
Exactly.
You know, if you see, I was fortunate to see some of the deduction that the police officers are having. Canteen deduction, transport deduction, you name it. I don't want to sit here and name all these deductions. And these are things they are not actually benefiting from. That's why the last couple of weeks, you knew, we are trying to get the IGP on this seat that you are sitting.
But
so
anyway,
that we can raise some of these issues. So since you are doing the security sector reform, and you have said clearly, it is not just the army, it's everybody, including me and Ali. Our security matters, and you are talking about it. You must look at all of them: the police, the fire service, the prisons, the immigration. Come on, they are paid.
Hunter, we can comment because we're out of time.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I agree with both of you gentlemen. The President of the Republic, even my colleagues in cabinet, we realized and sympathized. You know, when we talked about it, and the President talked about the poverty of this country. The President wished that he do what you're just saying.
No,
that is what he wants.
Mr. President, if you are watching this,
this is what he wants. And the government across the board are looking only. You beat me on that one. I didn't know what the police make because I am defense. I'm not interior, even though they're my sisters, brothers, and sisters. So you beat me on that one. You've seen their deduction.
Not only on that one.
Trust me, I
have an MOU with the Gambia Police Force for the last 2 years.
You see? CD, you are already part of this problem.
Yes, let's not talk about the issue of the motivation.
Yeah, but the motivation, the government is looking at all levels. As I said, I don't think it will be fair for me to sit here and start saying things that are coming.
Exactly.
But the government is looking into every aspect. And I sympathize with myself and the government when he says, if I must have failed something, I wish I can get accommodation for the security, the armed forces of this country. I said, if you had asked me that somewhere that I failed, that I have failed in, maybe that's an area I would look at. But sometimes if wishes were horses, we wish we can give all these monies, but it's one piece of cake and the entire country are running into one ministry to get tax-based economy. Now, also, let us be realistic. Sometimes you want something. All the ministries are going into one Ministry of Finance to tax base. So that's why there are a lot of challenges. But the armed forces and the security has been looked into by President of the Republic with his cabinet. And we are looking at ways of trying to motivate more and ameliorate and upgrade, so that the Gambia Armed Forces, with all these people, when you see them, you think they are paid.
No, it's important, and that's
millions.
why the issue of this restructuring of the salaries is very important. For me, I see no sense in having a director sitting in his office, having his diplomatic passport, earning thousands, when somebody who is sacrificing his life is there earning less than 5,000. For me, it doesn't add up. And I think, like I said, Honorable, you said the will is there to have all these things changed.
The political will is there, the executive and all our colleagues. We're looking at our sons and daughters in the armed forces, in the security services. What can we do to upgrade their living conditions? Trust me, and that's also part of my job, my only job, because we're an oversight of the armed forces.
Thank you very much.
So this we'll do our best.
You're talking about tax-based economy. Of course, we know that, but we know institutions like the army, the police, they can make millions of money millions, you know better. The police force, there is no room, no limit, the amount of money they can make, instead of just going to the finance department, getting money, and the army as well. Quickly, Aliu talks about motivation. That's very important. Let's talk about trust. What is trust level between the state and the army?
The trust level is very strong. I don't know what is the perception or what people will think. The Commander-in-Chief, President Adama Barrow, felt that overwhelmingly Gambians have put him on this job. And he is also got the trust of the armed forces. And we reassure him that the armed forces is there. And trust me, the troops are there for this country and they're there for the president. And things will get better. But there is no problem of distrust that people may perceive. No, we are a Republican army, the army of the people, the armed forces of the people. And so I don't see as Gambians where any distrust will happen. These are our sons and daughters in uniform. And when me and you has gone in the evening, retreat and go to sleep, they're in very harsh weather conditions. They're out in the day, sometimes they're hungry, they're limited. So we respect and honor what they do. And President of the Republic is aware of that. And we will do everything possible to continue to show them that respect, to develop trust. But remember where we came from. Do not forget about that.
Okay, quickly, final question from me. We've seen the TRRC report, the recommendation, and I know some of your men have been mentioned in that report. Of course, we're waiting the government to come out with the white paper and recommendation and all that. But what do you have to say about that? As far as the TRRC?
No, actually you have answered that question. The white paper will come out and then at cabinet and all we will have to discuss. And as you said, the report is out. We all have seen, it's now public knowledge. We have seen copy and we thank the Honorable Minister. I've got a stick where the entire report was there. But I think to be fair to all Gambians is to look at the report and come up with something that we feel. Some people were already writing to acknowledge the atrocities they've committed. Some have apologized down at the TRRC, some are writing. So in order to avoid to preempt certain things is to wait for the leadership, to wait for the white paper and to make sure that we look for reconciliation and healing and and then we move forward. This is what, but I may not be able to say much on that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Just on that 30 seconds, just your final message to Gambians before we...
Is to thank all Gambians for their support for this government, for President Barrow, to tell Gambians that the way forward is for us to establish peace and to dialogue. When we disagree, there's no need for me to insult you. We are Gambians. Let us sit together and dialogue and find out what is best for Gambia. Also, for the population to support our security forces because they're going through out in the open, in the heat, sometimes very cold, as far as beyond Fatoto and Kirpate, development, Katong, everywhere in the corridor, our people out there. So we want the population to continue to pray and support our armed forces, security services, and also to preach peace at all levels. Let us talk about peace. That's what Gambia is known for. And to avoid misinformation, disinformation, and all these instigators, because like the Wolof says, I do emchi bopi boram. Fitnange nelaw yala rubana kuko e. I think we have achieved something. Let us consolidate on our gains. Democracy, the rule of law, like President said yesterday, he's doing the right thing, fear nothing, because make sure you just do the right thing. Anytime you ask him, he said, what does the law say about this? Can you contact the judiciary? I think that's what we wanted, and we are there now. And let us appreciate also those who came to help us when we needed them. And so that whenever it's time for them to leave, they can leave honorably. But again, thank Gambians for the opportunity to serve them since December 1981 when I was a private soldier. And we will continue to do our best for this country under the leadership of President Adama Barrow and my colleagues in cabinet.
Thank you very much. Well, that's Sek Umar Faye, the Gambia's Minister of Defense, assistant diplomat here, served as Gambia's ambassador to the United States of America, Saudi Arabia, and he is well experienced as far as security and diplomacy is concerned. Well, viewers, I'm afraid with that we come to the end of this program of the State of Affairs, and I hope the President, who is also the Commander-in-Chief, will also find time of his busy schedule to be visiting some of these barracks to interact with his fine men and women to see their living condition for himself, because it's important. I mean, I think it's very important. Well, viewers, with that, we thank you so much for watching. Do join us next week. Until then, bye-bye.